Matthew Arnold was born at Lalcham near Staines on 24 December 1822. His father, Thomas Arnold, was the famous headmaster of Rugby School. And Matthew Arnold was a pessimistic poet. He was himself educated at Rugby. In 1840, he won the school prize in English verse. In 1843, he won the Newdigate Prize for writing a poem on Cromwell at Balliol College, Oxford. In 1845, he was elected Fellow of Oriel College. And he was Professor of Poetry, and he worked as a master at Rugby for some years. In 1851, he was made Inspector of Schools, and his famous works are Mare of New Poems in 1868, and he was a pessimistic poet. As a poet of nature, Arnold bears some resemblance to Wordsworth. He also possesses penetrating and sympathetic insight in nature and believes in its healing power, but it is not a nature worshipper like Wordsworth. Wordsworth has different approaches and Matthew Arnold has different approaches. Now question arises, what were the approaches? Matthew Arnold spiritualizes nature, and Wordsworth spiritualizes and intellectualizes. Another difference that we see, Matthew Arnold belongs to the Victorian period of English literature, and Wordsworth belongs to Romantic period of English literature. Victorian poetry was written when Queen Victoria was dominating over England, and it started from 1837 to 1901. And major poets of this era were Robert Browning, Alfred Lord Tennyson, Matthew Arnold, and most of the poetry is written about the background of science and new inventions, discoveries which were taking places. So one of the more important thing, people's philosophy were changing. People were getting rationalist, and they lost their faith in religion. They started thinking from scientific point of view. So we shall discuss about the poem Dover Beach. Dover Beach is prescribed in your syllabus, and the poem was published in 1867. It is a sort of elegy. The poet has expressed pessimism in this poem. The world is full of misery. Even the Greek poet Sophocles sung it. But in olden times, men had faith and love for each other. But that they have now lost and instead fight with each other. The poet is reminded of it by ebbing of the sea at the Dover Beach. The poet talks about the philosophy of modern man. Modern man is running behind wealth. God is money and money is God. This is the philosophy, this is the ideology, this is the context. Earlier people have full faith in the religion. They respected their elders, senior citizens, but now all these things wiped out. All these things have no place in modern context. In the first stanza, the poet sees the calm sea is full tide at the Dover Beach. In the second stanza, the roar of the ebbing sea strikes a knot of sadness in his mind. In the third stanza, he says that Sophocles was reminded of human misery, as he heard the roars of the sea, waves at the Greek coast. In the fourth stanza, the poet talks that once the sea of faith gilded this earth, but it is now retreating. In the last stanza, he asks us to love each other as this world is really a joyless place. He appeals to his beloved that they should love each other, talk together, and discuss with each other. And because this life is very short, and they should enjoy the life. So, as the poem starts, in the very first stanza, the sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies here. The poet appreciates the beauty of the moon. Upon the straits on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliff of England stand glimmering and vast out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window, sweet is the night air. He appeals to his beloved to come and sit together on the side of the window, and sweet air is blowing only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blazed land. Listen, you hear the grating roar. He says that you can hear the waves are rising and falling, and this rise and fall symbolizes of the ups and downs that occurs in human life. It means life is not easy. Life is not a bed of roses of peoples which the waves draw back and fling at the return of the high strand, being at seas and then again begin. With tremulous cadence, slow and bring the eternal knot of sadness in. Sophocles long ago, it is the example of Sophocles. Sophocles was a great Greek tragedian. He narrated this message in his tragedies. Heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid even flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith was once true at the full and round earth's shore, lay like the ford a bright gilded ford, but now I only hear its melancholy. There is only melancholy, sadness in the world. So this reveals the pessimistic philosophy of Matthew Arnold. Long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Ah, love, let us be true. He says to his beloved that they should love to each other, and they should be faithful and true and loyal to each other, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams. Really, this world is a beautiful place, and we should enjoy this beautiful place. So various, so beautiful, so new, has really. But now, this world has neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help. For pain, people are fighting with each other. People are not knowing who are their friends, who are their enemies, without knowing their friends and their enemies. They are fighting in the darkness. So it is not fair on the part of humanity. This is not the sign of humanity. And we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused plans of struggle and fight, where ignorant armies clash by night. So the message we gather in this poem, is about pessimism, that we should have the feeling of gregariousness, we should have the feeling of brotherhood, we should have the feeling of likeness, we should have the common sense, we should have sensibility. So the context is that this poem is a message for the entire world that It's not the time to fight. It's time to unite with each other. It's time to cooperate, coordinate, and control. Anger and weapon are not the solution of any problem. We should try to point out the solution rather than creating confusion or rather than creating a problem.